Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Firstly, to all brothers and sisters who are listening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Life is actually a cycle, which is that we start from one end of what Allah creates us with, and then we end up going all the way around back to the same point. Allah Azza wa Jalla has said in the Holy Quran, Allahu alladhi khalaqakum min da'f. Allah is the one that has created you from weakness. Thumma ja'ala min ba'di da'fin quwwah. And after He has given you weakness, He gives you strength. Thumma ja'ala min ba'di quwwatin da'fan wa shayba. And then after that strength that you get, He gives you weakness and He gives you old age. يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ. Allah creates anything He wants. And what this ayah shows us in Surah Ar-Rum is that we all start from weakness. Then we slowly move towards strength, and we'll carry on moving towards strength until there's a peak of that strength. And from the peak of the strength there's a decline. And from the decline we go all the way back to where we were. Now, what I want to say is that some of us are at the end of us seeing that peak. Some of us are seeing that strength. Some of us are seeing that strength grow. Some of us are seeing that strength go away from us. So if you're a person who is in your teens, if you're a young person here, if you're a person in your 20s, if you're a person in your 30s, you're still seeing your growth, you're seeing your strength come in your body. And therefore, what you feel is, you feel that you are stronger than the population, you're much stronger than all people that are around you, and that you are ahead of them. But not necessarily, because Allah Azza wa Jalla has given two types of strength that we have and we move on with. One is the physical strength, and the other one is the mental strength. One is the physical body and the strength that it requires. Another one is the mental abilities and the peak of that mental ability. Now, the human reaches the physical peak at around the age of about 33. Okay? Between 25 and 33, you're going to reach the physical height of strength. But the mental one only gets reached at the age of 40. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla has said in the Holy Quran, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّ وَبَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً. Until the human reaches his peak of strength. And Allah in here, He doesn't mean just the physical, He means the mental strength. Because if you look at a 40-year-old, okay, a 40-year-old is not as agile actually probably as a 30-year-old. We know that. If you look at sportsmen, all over, you'll see that they're in their prime. We're in the late 20s, early 30s, right? They're in the prime. But Allah Azza wa Jalla, interestingly, says that when He reaches His peak, and He says, and He reaches the age of 40, which means that the inner mental abilities and the logical faculties that we have, and maturity of age is reached at the age of 40. Okay? So what happens then is the human being is physically growing quite fast in reaching its peak very quickly at a certain age, which gives him the false impression that is already much, much greater than most of the humans that are around him at an early age. And the reality kicks in when the human reaches the mental age of 40 and beyond that. And the human starts to realize that, there's more to life than what I've seen. So when you're at your teens, when you're a young boy right now, or maybe a young girl right now, you've got most of the skills of what is happening right now. You pick it up really fast, and you kind of feel that the elder generation above you, they're slower than you. You kind of feel that you're ahead of them. You feel that you are much more capable than them, because you give a young man, you give a young woman a smartphone, and they'll whiz through it like no one else, and that gives them the impression that they're ahead of their, the older generation. You give them social media, the thing that's in the trend right now. They'll show you things, they'll know things that me and you will take a little bit more time in knowing, but they know it really fast. You give a young man, a young woman a computer or something to do with those skills that they have mastered very quickly, and they will show you how quick and how fast and how agile they are. Now, to you young people, don't think that you've reached life's end right now. You've got a long way to go to understand what life is. And this is the point of the pre-khutbah talk that I'm giving, is that our young men, our young women, they kind of think that they know it all. They're ahead of everyone else, when really they've got a lot more to learn. So what then happens is, Allah Azza wa Jalla has said, this quwwah, this strength that you've got, it's growing inside you. So first you get this sprout at the age of 12 or 13. You grow really quickly. You grow maybe a whole foot within a year. Right? Within a year you've grown a whole foot. Within a year your voice is broken down. You kind of, you feel that you're almost the size or maybe taller than your mother and your father. It happens at the age of about 14, 15. By the time you got to 16, you're definitely near their height or you're above their height. Okay? Now you're almost kind of feeling that, I'm above them. Right? But what you haven't done is you haven't tasted life yet. Life is still ahead of you. So the next thing you're going to go through, and most of you who are youngsters, you don't actually feel this, you don't think this. But how you're going to think is that you've got to think you're now at an age that the people below you will reach at a certain age, and you can see that. You won't understand the age above you, but you'll understand the age below you. So let me give you an example. If you're right now 15 years old, and you have a brother that is 7 or 8 years old, you look at your 7, 8-year-old brother and you kind of think, what do you know, huh? Wait till you get to my age. I've been through that. You kind of look at them, even if you're 12, 13 right now, and you look at your 6-year-old, 7 or 9-year-old brother or sister, you kind of look at them and you think, I went through that. I know what they're going through. I know the phase they're at. Now, each time you grow, let's say you're 18 now, and you look at your 15 or 16-year-old brother, and you look at what they're going through, you understand them clearly, and you think, they're in the GCSEs. What's GCSEs? It's nothing, bruv. That's what you say to them. It's nothing. Wait till you get to A-levels. Wait till you get to A-levels. And that's what you say to them. And you see your brother or your sister struggling, getting there in a year 10 or year 11, trying to get towards their GCSE, and you see all the struggle. And you look at them, and you laugh at them. He says, that's nothing, bruv. It's easy, man. GCSEs, what's going on? Right? Because you're already at 18. Now, this is the thing about life, is that the youngsters we've got here, I want you to understand that the people who are above you are looking at you in the same way. You're 20, you're 18, you kind of think you know it all. And the 25-year-old or the 30-year-old that looks at you, they think, man, this guy's going through it, This guy thinks he's got all of it. Now he's not even married yet. She's not even married yet. They're married at the age of 28 or 30, whatever. They're looking at you at 20, thinking that you know it all, you got it all. You're out there with your mates whenever you want, you call who you want, you go out the house whenever you want. What you don't realize is that your dad's bills are keeping you alive. And you don't even know how to pay your dad's bills. But you think you're above your dad, you think you're above your own siblings, you think above many people out there. Right? Just because you got some smart intelligence, which is really to do with you being just a young man with the abilities Allah has given you, you've managed to get a few things in your mind. Now, what will happen after that is that you'll get to the stage when you hit the age of marriage. Now, most of you youngsters, when you talk about marriage, you kind of think, nah, marriage, me, long way away. But what happens is there's a part inside you that becomes stronger and stronger in wanting the opposite gender. So if you're a young man, you'll have a strong desire to be with the young woman. If you're a young woman, you'll have a strong desire to be with a young man. And it's good if you make it at this right age. Now, what happens after that, you go to the cycle once you get married. Now, most of you youngsters, right now you're switching off. You're thinking, nah, that's not me. You're laughing at me. You know, I remember when I was about 11 years old, I was in a Hibs class with some other boys. Some of these boys were 17, 18 and so on. So I looked at this 17-year-old, and when I was like 9-year-old in Hibs class, he was kind of about 15-year-old, and he barely had any beard coming out of his face. But at 17, he had a fully grown beard. And I looked at him, I laughed at him, and he said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "I'm laughing at you that you so quickly grown a beard." Because I was 11, I had nothing on my face. And he said, "You're laughing." He said, "Will you watch what happens to you after a few years?" And what you youngsters don't realize is you're going through exactly the same cycle. Like what I want you to realize in this pre-khutbah talk is, if you want to see your life at 20, then look at 20-year-olds. If you want to see your life at 30, look at 30-year-olds. You'll see good and bad. You'll see all sorts. You're going to hit that age. If you want to see your life at 40, just look at 40-year-olds, and you're going to hit that age. If you think that, 40 and 50-year-olds, they get a lot more serious in life, well, that's what you're going to be. You're going to be a lot more serious in life. Why? Because by the time your other maturity has hit you, by the time you become 40 and Allah's given you maturity in your mind, you're going to be a lot more quiet in life, take things easy. You're going to take less risk in life. It's known in all departments. Like if you look at insurance of cars, why do you think insurance is very high for early 20-year-olds? Why? Why is it lower when you get to your 30s and your 40s? Why? Because they know that youngsters take a lot of risks on the roads. That's why the insurance is high. They know how many accidents. They've looked at how many accidents there are, and they put the insurance high when you're young. Now, you're a young person, you think you know it all. Once you hit the age of marriage and then you start having kids, then you start realizing the beginning of what life actually is. Because now you've got kids that are yours, and you've got to now bring them up in life. Every single thing that your parents went through starts hitting you from that moment onwards. And you start realizing, you know what? All this time before reaching the age of 30, when you had your first child or something, before reaching that age, you always thought that, dad's this, mum's this, dad's this, mum's that. You had loads of things in your head about your dad and your mum and things that they got wrong with you, or maybe they got wrong with life, or maybe they got wrong with your upbringing. But what you don't realize is you're in the same spot today. You're going to have your fair share of mistakes in life. By the time you've had your kids and you're trying to bring your kids up, it's a new world. You've got so many worries about your own kids. And your kids can't see that. Your kids grow up in the same way that you grew up. You know what I said to you? You have this sprout of growth and this strength when you're young. And you want to just become bigger and bigger. You want to be bigger than the people that are towering above you. You want to reach a height above them. You want to be stronger than them. You want to be faster than them. You want to be more clever than them. You want to be more smarter than them. And that's what happens to all young people until they become that age, when they are faster, when they are smarter, when they are, stronger. But then they realize that there's more to life. There's a lot more to life. So what happens when you have kids? Well, you've only just started. You've got to now get your family stable. You've got to pay for your bills. It's not an easy thing to do that, to paying for your bills. And then you've got your wife, which is another whole chapter in life, if you know what I'm trying to say. You've got your husband, which is a new chapter in life. You've got to be with each other. You've got to understand one another. You've got to stick together. You've got to go through the highs and lows of life. And then before you know it, you had a time of education when you were young. You have a time of working when you get to your 20s or your 30s. And before you know it, you start getting white hair. You start getting grey hair. And before you know it, you've reached that age when you're getting mature. Now, what's the point of me telling you all of this? The point of me telling you all of this is, guys, if you're young, know that your parents are making a massive sacrifice for you and for what they've done for you. You won't see any of that. You won't realize any of that till you get to the age when you have your own children. Your parents are human beings. They make mistakes like all human beings. Your parents, you will understand them when you grow to your late 30s or to your 40s. You're going to start understanding, now I understand what it is to be an adult. Now I understand my dad's dad was like this, alright? He came from Pakistan. My dad was treated like this when he was young. My mom came from this kind of family when she was young. And then you start putting everything together with all the stories that you've heard. And then you start understanding why your parents were your parents. And what they went through. And what they had to do to stay together. And what they had to do to bring you up in the turmoil that they faced. Whatever turmoil that was. I haven't got time to go into the different backgrounds that people go through. But people have their struggles. Your parents are going through their own struggles. Appreciate what they're doing for you right now. Appreciate what you have. Okay? The least you can do is to be nice to them. Is not to shout back at them. Is not to get frustrated and angry at them. Is not to say horrible words to them. The least you can do is that. Okay? Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us in the Holy Quran, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Allah said, out of mercy for your parents, put down both of your arms down. Your whole attitude needs to be humble in front of your parents. Okay? Now, when you get to a certain age, you know what? You're going to probably, if you ever remember this pre-talk, this pre-khutbah talk, if you ever remember this, you're going to say, you know what? That was true. Even at the age of 30, when you hit that, you still haven't reached the age of true maturity in your mind. When you get to 40, and plus 40, then you start seeing life in a different way. Because you know why? Because now you're on the going end. You're on the goodbye end. If you ever, we don't know when death is going to come to any one of us. We know that. You could be on the goodbye end any moment, right? But if Allah ever blesses you with a life where you've reached like around 40, you know for sure that by the time you've reached that age, you don't know how long you got. If you live till the age of 60, then you're already like, you're already like 60% of the way in, 40% of the way out. You're already like on the way out. Because you're now, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, he did excessive ibadah from the age of 40. And they said, why are you doing excessive ibadah? And he said, because if the average life, like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said in a hadith, he said, my ummah will live between the average age of 60 and 70. He said, if the average life is 60 to 70, then from 40, everything is downhill after this. You're basically going downhill, so you don't know any moment you're going to be out this world. So best to do is to make the best ibadah that we can and get close to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Now, hopefully, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, I want the brother to come actually forward to make the announcement. But hopefully, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, I've told you that, look, life is a cycle. You're going to go from weakness to strength, strength to weakness. And the biggest weakness you're going to face is, when you get to a certain age, at old age, you know what happens? You start losing your memory. You start losing your physical abilities that you acquired. You start losing all of that. You start losing the power of your certain, your internal organs. You start losing the power of all of that. And it's another whole cycle, just like you were young and you're a baby and you start moving towards that. So that's what life is. In between there, whatever good actions we've done, we'll take it with us. So brother, make an announcement if you come to the front, inshallah. In between that, you've got a choice to do the best of actions and to leave this world. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us tawfiq. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin.